My big question is, when am I going to get to buy an $11,000 EV from Ford?
Well, it's coming.
When?
Margin parity is needed for EVs and ICE vehicles in order for them to compete against, quote, the Chinese offensive. So
we do believe, of course, Tesla will remain by far the market leader.
All that and more. So let's get to it. Tesla stock is up in the pre-market 1.69%. Pause. Sitting at 203.84. For the week, Tesla's up over 7%. I kind of missed this train, considering yesterday Tesla had a 6% run up in a single day. Anybody that placed calls around 189? Congratulations on those profits. A couple of weeks ago, I told myself that I was going to place protective puts until Tesla got to back around 205. Well, it's pretty damn close right now. I got out of all of my put positions, at a loss, mind you, and I feel that I'm ready. I'm ready to get back into the call business.
My big question is, when am I going to get to buy an $11,000 EV from Ford?
Well, it's coming.
When?
Well, I think you'll have to wait a few more years, but
If by a few years you mean 20, an $11,000 EV, I mean, you'll be able to get one in 2033. It'll just have the Tesla logo on it.
you know, one of the advantages we have is we've been out with our first generation vehicles now for up to 3 years. We've been developing our second generation of vehicles, which is a whole new breakthrough. We've brought in people from outside of Ford that have expertise in that.
Tesla! Excuse me, I'm sorry, I'm coming down with something.
And we are developing a low-cost EV platform so that we can be a big part of this S-curve when it comes time. And that is, I think, coming in a couple years from now.
Okay.
And I think it's going to be a big inflection point for the industry when more affordable EVs come online.
Do you feel like the industry was surprised by the hybrid? I know that everyone has some hybrids, but really Toyota bet a lot on that farm. And it feels like the industry went full throttle into high-end EVs. Do you feel like we missed a trick here?
No, I don't think so. One of the things about Ford that's really good is we lead in hybrids as well. We have the #1 selling hybrid truck and the #2 selling hybrid truck. It grew 20% for us last year. We expect it to grow 40% this year. So we have the ability to provide our customers choice, gas, hybrid, and EV. And I think that's really important in the transition because it is a stepping stone for consumers.
I love it when my just hit my buzzwords. There is going to be plenty of money to be made in the stepping stone. Now, Ford's been talking the talk and walking the walk a little bit. I mean, they're trying to navigate this transitional period. It's going to be rough. As long as they can come out with affordable, compelling vehicles, they might be able to survive the decade. I just can't help but be skeptical from what I've seen from Legacy Auto.
Stellantis shares popping as the automaker reports earnings and announces a new buyback plan despite warning of a turbulent year ahead. So a little bit of mixed messaging there, maybe.
Yeah, you know, so strong earnings are in full year 2023, so good revenue, good profit outlook here, but they're kind of warning about this turbulent year ahead. A couple of headwinds they're talking about is EV product mix, of course, the kind of shifting prices and demand and the offerings they have at the dealerships. Talking about, of course, higher labor costs because of the strike, and then of course price normalization, lower prices coming in. So these are the kinds of things that they're concerned about. But they think that at least in America, compared to the other big three, they have better pricing power and they can kind of wade through that. On the call, CEO Carlos Tavares was on there. This guy's kind of known as I wouldn't say a maverick, but he's very opinionated, and he talks about how we weren't ready for the EV transition years ago, and now he's sort of having his kind of moment to roost here. But he does say that in 2025 in North America they'll be profitable with EVs. He does think that a shared platform, which what they did as opposed to GM, where they said this one platform can be used for gas and ICE cars, and EVs. And also he said that margin parity is needed for EVs and ICE vehicles in order for them to compete against, quote, the Chinese offensive. So,
How close are we to that?
I mean, he thinks that in 2025 they'll get you start climbing towards that. Probably not till mid to late decade, I would say. Yeah, for sure.
That's fairly optimistic. Price parity. We're trying to get a margin parity. I wonder who has the best margins in the EV business.
So we heard from Stellantis, Praz, today, but also Ford's Jim Farley.
Yeah.
I thought he had a lot of interesting to say. He talked about China, too, and kind of the ramping competition there, but also was it to kind of open up working with others?
Yeah, you know, sort of been rumblings of this for a while now. He kind of hinted at sort of how they can make cars and batteries cheaper in the earnings call, and today he sort of indicated that he could work with potentially Chinese partners to do that from a battery point of view. Adam Jonas has been talking about this for a while now, or in his last note, hinting that that could be a possibility. They have a JV operation in China that they could leverage there. But also, just like Tavares, warning about China, warning about how he needs to have a really cost-competitive, cheaper EV platform to make these cars that people need at a price that'll work for them. And also today, this is new to me, he mentioned that 20 to 30% of revenue is at risk due to Chinese car automakers coming to the U.S. Right now, there's almost a 30% tariff on Chinese-made vehicles, so they're probably happy about that, but we'll see if that sticks around.
We won't be able to keep these Chinese EVs from our shores for very much longer. Tesla, they're not gonna have any problems. Matter of fact, it might actually boost Tesla sales here in the US. But Ford, GM, Stellantis, they know what they're up against, and it's extinction. You're not gonna catch Tesla. Tesla's been doing all the right things for the past 2 decades, but Tesla cannot supply the entire world with their battery electric vehicle needs. Winner will take most, but it can't take all. Someone's going to have to fill in those gaps. Pause.
Now, trimming your estimates for EV sales, both for this year and next, Itai, why did you make that call there? What are you seeing in the market?
We did trim our estimates recently by a modest amount. We still see EV sales actually reaching about 9.5% penetration in 2024. It close to 15% by 2025. That said, given the slowdown and some of the revised plans by the automakers that we've seen announced, plus I would say a tough start to January, although December we think was actually a very good month. But just given the slower start in January, we did trim our numbers a little bit. I would say our views are probably still above the current consensus thinking, which has been very bearish on EVs the last few months. We don't completely agree with that. There are some adoption challenges out there that's reflected into our numbers, but we still think we'll have a pretty good year for EV growth this year on the back of some new product.
And who do you think is going to be the big winner in EVs, and is that going to then determine who's the big winner overall in sales this year?
Come on, buddy. Come on, buddy. You know that when you ask that question, this man was gonna say.
We do believe, of course, Tesla will remain by far the market leader. Our forecast for market share this year is just under 50%. We think a new product, including the refresh on the Model 3, is going to be key for them this year. Of course, Cybertruck ramping as well. And then General Motors, as they ramp their Ultium platform, we think it could be in about 11% market share. So sort of the first non-Tesla automaker with a double-digit market share this year as they ramp that platform. We think we need more product in the EV market. If you look at just some of the market coverage to date, it's pretty uneven in certain segments and certainly in certain price points.
I would say you don't need more product, you need better product. You need more affordable product. And to do that, you need efficiency. No one automaker should have 40 different versions of an electric vehicle, all of which they produce poorly. Refine and hone your product, make it as cheap as you possibly can, and sell as many of them as you possibly can because they're a great product.
One thing to keep in mind in the whole EV debate that's very important is in the US, we have on average about 2 vehicles per household. So the burden of EV adoption isn't about changing one's entire lifestyle to go all in on EV initially. It's really about converting households largely to one combustion or ICE and maybe a second one with EV. And if that starts to happen, you could see in theory a pretty rapid uptake of EV adoption over the next few years.
That's how we started out. Bought the Model 3, wife still had the Honda. That lasted about 6 months. Even here in the cul-de-sac, we're seeing more Teslas in the driveways. They still got their internal combustion engines. It won't take them long to realize, why the f do I need this thing? All the while, that S-curve will go straight to the moon.
Itai, you mentioned pricing. Is that, in your opinion, is that the biggest challenge for adoption right now? I ask because if you were in the market, you're looking for an EV, let's say around $35,000, Itai, there aren't that many options. Do you see that changing, though?
It certainly is part of it, and in survey work that we've done, it does come up as one of the top 3 reasons and pain points of EV adoption today. But EV charging infrastructure, range anxiety, Even product availability also comes up in some of the survey work that we've seen. And what's interesting is some of the lowest priced EVs in the last couple of years have not been the most successful from a volume perspective.
It's because those cars are lateral moves when it comes to performance, functionality, none of the perks, and all of the headaches that come with owning an EV.
Really impressive things that Tesla's accomplished amongst many in the last few years is, when you look at some of the third-party data around conquest, like who are they actually taking share from? There's a fair amount, more than I think people might commonly believe, of that conquest coming from mass market brands. As you actually see, and that's where the appeal of EVs, right? With successful EVs have done some pretty incredible things in terms of market expansion and conquesting from segments that are even lower price.
Before I bought the Model 3, which cost around $40,000 or so, none of my new vehicle purchases were over $30,000. Tesla keeps track of the trade-ins that happen, and while Tesla is expecting people to trade in their luxury BMWs, cars that are priced around $40,000, $50,000, what they found was people were trading in these $20,000 cars in order to purchase their $40,000, $50,000, $80,000 vehicles. The Tesla stretch is real. The only thing consumers really need to ask themselves, is the juice worth the squeeze? And when you're talking about Tesla, that's a resounding yes. In conclusion, Legacy Auto seems to be talking out of both ends over here. On one hand, they're pulling back on their EV production, and on the other hand, they've got this next generation platform that's gonna rock the automobile industry to its core. I'll believe it when I see it. Meanwhile, Tesla continues to impress and execute on all cylinders. Ramping up the Cybertruck, we got the refresh of the Model 3. Regardless of what TSLA does, Tesla the company is knocking it out of the park. I'm not sure what the future holds in the short term, but while these prices are suppressed, your boy will continue to load up on TSLA. That's all I got for you today. Be easy. Peace.